Oh, I still got the hello, and welcome to the Generic Paranormal Show. I'm your host, KD, and this is my co-host, Austin.
What's up?
So,
I like the background. Is that Tesla?
Yeah,
Some
yeah.
kind of weird
So,
version of him.
Can I do this like this? I don't know. Hold on.
I like it.
There we go. Yeah, it's just AI, man.
Yeah, it's like an AI version of him, I guess, but it's kind of cool. I like it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
so, welcome everyone, one and all. Yankul. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm gonna freaking butcher your name. Yankul. Sorry, Cardosa. A special power. Hello. So we are talking about paranormal equipment tonight. Did you know that, Austin? That I have a topic.
What?
Bro, I did not know that.
Well, I know, but it seems like our best conversations, I feel like, come from starting talking about paranormal equipment. It seems like
always the best starting point.
Yeah, for us
at least.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
So mainly, we had talked. I think we talked about this several times in the past, and I was talking to somebody else about it recently. But the question is, like, a lot of people, I think, probably take it for granted that, oh, hey Russell, that like all the equipment we use, it's like we just use it. Like, who started using it? Like, why did they start using it? What made them want to start using it? What was the door that kind of opened for people have always used equipment. It's just a matter of tech level, right? So, like, whatever technological level we're at, that's where our paranormal equipment is.
I've been wanting to dive into this for a long time, bro. Hell yeah.
Yeah, so we'll dive into it a little bit more than we normally do.
Let's do it.
First of all, I guess we'll start with the obvious one, EMF detectors, right? K2s, trifields. Yeah. Any kind of K2 device, basically. Hey, Greg.
Anything that measures
Joanne,
the
hello.
spectrum.
Paranormal Rock Down. What's up? Chris Stan.
Right.
Nope. So EMF detectors. Now, what I've come up with is the origin for using, and that now I've read that they were used in the 70s, and that might be true. I just can't really find records of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, things weren't documented as well back then, obviously, as they are now. With they were. It was just written down, right? There were no video. There weren't a lot of videos. There's very few videos. Anyway,
Right.
So we didn't have we did have kind of a paranormal culture.
Mm-hmm.
It was much smaller. The whole subject was more taboo.
There was a small subculture.
Mm-hmm. People would get into paranormal stuff around Halloween or whatever.
There was a dedicated small group of people, but yeah,
they would investigate regularly. You had the Warren,
yeah.
You had there were several high profile people, and it's kind of been that way, like, all throughout history. And there was tons that, don't get me wrong, there was tons of probably like what's the metaphysical, I guess, spiritualism type people.
Yeah.
Before, right, like a late 1800s, mid to late 1800s, and then on. But
well, I mean, the study of, like, the occult practices,
right? But I'm talking about ghost hunting, sort of as we know it today, right?
Oh, as we know it today, yeah.
Like, with even like
late 1800s,
the majority of the equipment started with the Ouija board. It kind of did. There was like mirrors and stuff like that, but it was all like, I mean, it's still Ouija board, still metaphysical as well, but it's still a device.
Yeah, that came a little later. But
it did come out a little bit later, but that's the first, like,
It was the first
Piece of
talking
equipment.
board, direct communication
Piece of
type
equipment.
deal. Yeah. But they
I mean,
had done a number of things and before that, like baby powders or talcum powder
well,
on the
that's like
floor.
that's a method.
Um,
That's a method that's like a technique. I'm talking about equipment wise. Like
oh, well, they would
Ouija
use
boards were
like
kind of the first one to hit the mainstream, and it just kind of took off, right? And then a lot of people this
yeah,
stuff.
maybe candles.
Yeah, but again, I'm talking about something specifically made for paranormal. Well, sort of, because EMF detectors kind of fall out of that because they're not specifically made for that, but they're just used for that.
Yeah. I think it all just depends on like, was there a tool being used to interact with or
Sure.
detect
But
the
not
other
much
side?
before the spiritual movement. Besides like pendulums, cards. Obviously, it was like divination. It was more that type of stuff, right?
Like paganism, Wiccan,
Yeah,
Wiccan witch.
I'm not really counting occult because if you're an occult practitioner, you
It's not
like,
strictly dark. Occult back
no,
in
I know,
ancient times was like,
but you only practice the occult if you are a occult practitioner, right? The paranormal investigation. So okay,
didn't
well here
like
we go.
all of our
Is
founding
paranormal
fathers.
investigation occult? Is paranormal investigation occult practicing? Is it
Yeah,
practicing the occult? I
yeah,
think it is. I
it
see it
is.
that way. I
Yeah,
see anybody who uses
it's
any kind of
esoteric
methods. It
interaction.
is
That's
very
occult.
esoteric.
That's what it is. That's what occult rituals, occult, like they use that term occult and we think immediately, oh, satanic, whatever. And that's not
I
the
used to think
case.
cult. Like when I heard
Yeah,
the
that
occult, I
too.
would think
That
cult.
too. But it's just esoteric, like
Yeah, you're
diving
talking
into
about.
it, whether it's
Yeah.
magic or death
And
or
that
like
would really be
person.
the
It's like a
occult.
generic term.
But the
Yes.
occult was really like brought
Occult
back
is a better term for
by
spiritualism on the
um,
paranormal side, or like on the ghostly side, but it's more about like conjuring and necromancy and like all that shit.
right. So the occult
Summoning.
is kind of a bit
Like
different because like in the
like
paranormal
Solomon's
investigation when it
seals.
first what we know is paranormal investigation, right? I'm gonna say it started with
Yeah, that's different. I would say that was
Charles
late
Ford.
18, mid to
Charles
late
Ford.
1800s.
Charles Ford.
Who's that?
Charles Ford was I think it was Charles Ford was a famous paranormal investigator.
Because I mean, we could go back to. I mean, there's a number of people. People
No,
that
not
use.
Charles. It's not Charles Ford. It's hold on. I got
I mean, I think that because like the Winchester House, like Mrs. Winchester. I know that was a spiritualism movement, but so I mean, I would guess like 1850 later. You know what I mean? Although I don't know, it's so hard to determine because like even like our founding fathers like in the 1700s were practicing occult, like they were in the Hellfire Club and shit, dude. Like what the Hellfire Club
yeah,
was
but
doing all
that's
kinds of
not really
occult
is that
rituals.
the occult? The Hellfire Club wasn't an occult. Wasn't like it was more considered like a fraternity. What's up, Jonathan?
Yeah, a cult, like an
No, but
actual
the occult's
cult.
not. But the occult's not a fraternity.
No, but they did occult they had occult practices like the Hellfire Club, and there was another one. What was the other one?
Well, you had
Hellfire
like
Caves.
they were all like kind of elite.
But yeah, they would go over to like what was it, like Ireland or something, Scotland, where
Well,
they
they had
had that.
The Hellfire Caves, I think, and it was
Yeah,
underneath the castle, and the castle was owned by a dude. I
yeah,
can't
and
remember
they
his
had
name.
like sex part. They had like prostitution. They did all kinds of like rituals, satanic rituals. They even
But
said, well, they said occult
see, that's not
rituals, but
really
that
the
doesn't
occult. That's not
necessarily.
so much the occult as it was a bunch of rich people who wanted to just be like hedonistic, have all these hedonistic meetings where they'd have orgies and drink and do drugs or whatever.
Okay,
Right?
can I
That's
ask
kind
you
of
a
what
question?
those were for,
All right, so then can you
supposedly.
tell me what so the what was the fucking ritual with the owl? that they
Okay,
found.
so the owl that you're talking about, the
You know
Bohemian
that
Grove.
ritual at that one camp or whatever, right?
Bohemian Grove.
Camp, yeah, Bohemian Grove. That's it. Yeah,
Yeah. Now
yeah.
that
Like,
yeah,
well,
so
that would be considered a cult.
no,
Not
so
a not.
not if you just take what it's an occult like, but okay, so here's
Well,
where
I guess what's the
everything we
purpose,
know
right?
as the occult, everything we know as the occult today,
Mhm.
basically came from Aleister Crowley.
It's basically, and I look at it as
But the
another
occult
word for
before that,
paranormal.
there was no occult before the Aleister Crowley. There was esoteric stuff. There was
Paranormal. It's just another word for paranormal. More.
paranormal is a blanket term that
Yeah,
covers
that's
things
kind of
that
how
we
I look
don't
at it.
understand, right? So you can't. It's like I don't put the occult in with paranormal investigations. Normally, it can be considered, depending on how you operate and your intention, it can be considered as occult practice. But
I guess it
I'd
depends
say
on like the
what
time
we do
frame,
is
but
more occult practice than it is like actual. Like we're not looking for your water pipes banging. Oh, that's your problem. You know, we're not investigating to see if something is haunted. We're trying to talk
right.
to whatever's there, right? And that's kind of the angle we take. So we take an occult like
Do you
angle.
think that it would involve like summoning of some sort,
Yeah. So
like an attempt to
right.
summon? Like
Yeah.
that would what would make it an occult
We
thing?
are attempting to some. We're asking if anybody's here, can you communicate with me through this device, which is much easier than doing some kind of 7-day ritual to get spirits to speak to you.
I
So
mean, that's fair.
it's
That's
kind of
true.
a yeah,
I don't
it's
know if it
kind of the same
lasted
thing.
7 days though. That seems like a long time to talk to.
Oh, Jonathan
I
says,
know that they would take like peyote and stuff and talk to them at
well,
night.
peyote's kind of native to the South American, not South American, but Southwestern
The Navajo Nation.
natives.
Yeah. The
Yeah,
Utes, the
Navajo,
Navajo,
the
the
Yaqui, the
Utes.
Yaqui,
Yeah.
Yaqui. I don't
That's
know
good.
about Ute Indians. I don't know if is there peyote in Nevada and up.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
Well,
I'd have
maybe not up, but like it's in the like lower
in the
Nevada.
basin. I don't.
Yeah.
It's in the basin, dude. It gets cold out there, bro. It gets like. Oh well, I mean, peyote it's cold in
If
the freaking.
cactuses grow out there, then peyote grows out there. Because especially because peyotes, it's like you find it under the ground. It's
It's
like
not
fucking
easy to.
weird.
It doesn't just grow anywhere though.
No,
It's come out as little nodules. They look like little nodules. And they grow a little flower on them,
am I
and
thinking
those
of
they're
ayahuasca?
buttons. Ayahuasca is a root,
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of.
and
Okay, yeah,
that
that's
is
in the
only in
ground.
South
Yes, yes, yes.
America.
Yes, that's what I'm
They
thinking
don't
of.
really.
Okay,
That
yeah,
doesn't grow up here. Yeah,
yeah.
Aleister Crowley. Johnson says Aleister did heroin. He did do heroin. He did a lot more things than
He
heroin.
was chasing
He
that white
was
dragon.
Oh man, he was ruining lives left and
No, the
right. He
purple
went
dragon, right?
bankrupt several times. Now chasing the dragon means you're doing opium. Used to mean that.
Oh, I thought chasing the purple dragon
I
was
don't know
doing
about what
heroin.
chasing the purple dragon is. That heroin? I don't
It's
know. I know
it's
chasing the
they
dragon
take
used to be opium
yes.
back in the day.
Well, chasing the purple dragon now is basically like you're chasing that feeling that you're never going to get again.
That sounds like an acid trip though, because I mean
Well,
I've
it's
never
also
seen.
heroin addicts. Like the first time they do it, it's like amazing, and then they can never reach that full high again. And
Right?
that's
Yeah.
like part of the problem. Like that's why heroin addicts can die is because they just keep taking more and
You
more.
know, I'm surprised Aleister Crowley. He went so hard in his life. I'm surprised he didn't die of something like that. Instead, he died of like old age and broke and penniless in a nursing home or something. And
Dude, you know what's crazy?
supposedly his last words were something like uh, he saw God or something. I don't know for sure. Like he saw God and he was like, "Oh, God is real" or whatever. I don't know. I can't remember exactly what they claim the quote was that he said when he died.
It is
But
kind of crazy to think about like how back in the days, like they could do all these fucking hard drugs on the daily and live to be fucking 100, have no problems.
well, there weren't a bunch of
Like
other horse shit in
people
them.
like
Like
had
nowadays,
fucking
you go out and
snuff
buy
packets with coke in them. They were
right,
just doing them
yeah.
16 times a day, every
Well,
day
coke
for like
wasn't
50
illegal.
years. I know,
Cocaine
but
wasn't
like
illegal.
they had no, but like they did it and they still lived to be 80, 90 years old. Like what
Because
the
there was no crack. There was no people. There was no chemical, like chemical okay, the difference between, well, there, I guess there was like cocaine coca leaves have to go through like a chemical process to be
Mhm.
um, turned into powder form cocaine. But
George Youngblood.
yeah, but anyway, back in the day, it was a lot less processed, a lot less additives, and they use
Can't
weird
feel
shit to
my
cut it.
face.
There's no fentanyl. Like nowadays, there's no
No,
way
yeah.
I wouldn't even buy a Xanax off of a buddy.
Nah.
If I even mess with anything
Fuck that.
anymore, if I still
Yeah.
partied and stuff, right? There's no way that would make me quit because the
Yeah.
chance that you're gonna get fentanyl is super high. I feel like it's high enough to where
Yeah, you don't buy
I'm
any
not gonna take a
street,
chance.
no street pills, no like anything that did not come directly from like a pharmaceutical company. Like I would not even like, nah. Like I
Right.
would be so scared to go
Yeah.
buy any
If
kind
I
of
can't get
pills
it
from
at the
anybody.
if I can't get it at the pharmacy, I'm not gonna take it.
Yeah, yeah,
And
that's a
that's bad.
bad
That's bad.
idea.
I guess that's bad in a way because then you're like it's almost like a weird angle the pharmaceutical companies could have taken to like flood the U.S. with fentanyl, right?
Mm.
To like drive the public to think that way. Or I don't trust anybody but my pharmacy, right? That's crazy,
That's
right?
even yeah. But I
That's a
also
crazy angle. I don't think I've ever looked at it like that, but that's a possibility.
I don't know
Like
if
they
people
put it out there.
necessarily say that. I mean, you trust pharmacies when it comes to
I
like
mean, you don't have to say it, but you just know it, right? Like I'm not buying
yeah.
nothing off of anybody on the street.
Well, if you're not trying to die from fentanyl poisoning, yeah, like that's the one thing you
Right.
can trust the pharmaceutical company is
Yeah.
that they know the specific
Right.
doses that they can limit shit at before,
Yeah.
so you won't die when you
Right.
take
Yeah.
say a recommended dosage. But I think that the worst problem has been more about like
Yeah.
all the
Jonathan
other
Keeler said
shit.
they're booing the Canadian national anthem. That's funny.
Oh, is the
Yeah, I don't
hockey
think
playing
that's
right
a
now?
weird national
Is the game
anthem,
on right
bro.
now? The Canadian
I think
USA,
so. I think that's what Jonathan's talking about.
bro. I can't. I want to see that one just
I can't
because of
watch
the
hockey.
level of
Wait, they
dude.
put the little highlight on the puck now, right? Back in the day, they didn't have no highlight on that puck, bro. And you
Well,
just watch
yes,
a dude
but
skate
I'm not
around.
interested in that, man. I ain't even interested in that. Based on the first game, the first time they played, and the fact that, like, in the first 9 seconds, they had 3 fights just
Oh, the
because
fights are
of the
great.
booing, bro. Like,
They got all the pads and headgear on and stuff. And
oh,
I
dude,
like to
but
see a
yeah,
dude roll up and pull
it's
his helmet off, throw his gloves down. That's
yeah,
pretty
it is.
cool,
It's basically just facial shots, and whoever can stay up on the ice
dude. I've
longest,
seen
whoever
them
can
going
stand up
at
the
it,
longest. Because
dude.
once you go down, they
That's
break it up.
crazy.
But hey, you
I
know
mean,
what?
that's cool, bro.
Ever
Whatever.
some
Hey,
people get busted up though. It's kind of fun to see though.
yeah, you get fucked up playing hockey just in general. I
I
think.
just like to see that shit. Like I like to see the violence in it, I
I guess
guess.
fights are probably the least of your worries when you're
And
playing
hockey, oh my
hockey.
god, yeah.
What's
Getting
up,
like
Steve? Or
getting
Steve Holt? Hey,
blindside
he's up in here.
checks, like fucking oh my god,
So
bro.
you got to
People's
watch out for
careers have been ended.
People's skates.
Oh
Like their
yeah, like
skates
that
will
one
fuck you
dude
up.
that had his throat
Yeah,
sliced.
yeah,
You remember
bro.
that
That's
shit? Ugh.
crazy, y'all. It's just got to happen once before you're like, fuck, that could happen to me too, dude.
Oh
Like,
fuck yeah. Fuck yeah.
anyway, back to the paranormal stuff. Um,
Back
so
to the lecture.
Aleister Crowley basically kind of set up the occult the way it's looked at today. Now, that's not to say there weren't esotericism like for since the dawn of mankind, but it was kind of always looked at as like
It's just it was like
hermeticism. You had your alchemists, your all this kind of goes
it was
together.
like a fact of life, basically.
It was the meaning of
Like
life. That's what
it was
the
like understood that like it was
philosopher's
just
stone and all
accepted
that
and was
was.
like I mean spiritualism like in general believing in the spirits and the spiritual world has just been accepted for a long
But I
time
think
as part
they
of
thought about it
reality.
way differently than what we
Yeah,
do. How we
like
do.
the
We
spiritualism is when they started actually like looking for it and trying to
looking
detect
for
it and all
specific
that stuff. Yeah, for
spirits of people.
hauntings.
But like
Yeah,
most of
and
the
it
other
too.
world, or most of the rest of the world, when they, especially, give it some time, go back in time a little ways. The rest of the world kind of sees ghosts as differently, right? A ghost was kind of like when you thought of a ghost, you think of more like a zombie. How we would describe a zombie, somebody who came back from the dead. There was no
I would argue that that's geographical.
It probably is very geographical, but you got to think like it's the rest of the world almost. You know what I'm saying? And most of
Because
the
like
time,
if you
they
go over to
didn't have an idea.
Thailand, like
Right? Yeah,
Thailand, they like it depends because like
it's more about evil spirits, though.
yes, that's
It's
but they also
but
have
evil
ghost
spirits are
houses.
different. They're not like right.
Well,
They do have ghost houses,
they have
and
ghost houses all around the city and shit. But like,
it is geographical. But the majority of the world believed in spirits way differently.
oh yeah,
And
everybody does.
most of your like in Thailand, it's always like your ancestors. Like they're trying to appease their ancestors. That's what it's
So how
about, right?
Mexico views a lot of it too.
Well, and where does that view
Mexican
come
culture.
from? That view comes from like Catholicism and mostly Catholicism, and a little bit of voodoo up in there, and then you end up with Santeria, and
Santa Muerte.
Santeria. Do what?
Santa Muerte.
I don't. Santeria is Mexican witchcraft. That's all I know. I haven't
Santa
dove into
Muerte is the angel of death.
Angel
It's the
of Death.
Mexican
Yeah,
angel of
Saint
death.
of Death.
Yes,
Yeah,
he's
sure.
basically the Mexican Grim Reaper. Yeah,
Yeah.
I actually have like my when I wear my necklace, my charm.
I don't
has a
have to
link
worry about them because I'm not Mexican, so I won't have to worry about meeting the Mexican Grim Reaper.
Oh, you're exempt.
I'll meet the American Grim Reaper.
It could cross the border.
He's gonna be like, papers, please.
That's fucked up.
Anyways, where's my cigarette? Okay, so, but anyway, so like going back to equipment.
This is funny. Yeah. But they used to
So,
like hang feathers from strings and shit, like from the
yeah, but is that
ceiling.
that's
There's like
that's
different things that
a technique.
I
You
would
put
say like
baby
the
powder on the
analog stuff.
coals.
How long have they been using like tri-field meters? Like because I know like what the dude is holding
Okay,
Geiger counters.
so
Like
here's what I
that
came up
shit.
with, and I've said this before.
Okay.
It's kind of just more solidified now. Is that Michael Persinger? As far as I can take it back, Michael Persinger, who, with the help of Stanley Coren, developed the God helmet and did the God helmet experiments. They were the first ones to correlate EMF fluctuations with paranormal activity, right, or metaphysical activity.
Well,
Because
spiritual
they were saying
experiences.
that in some places,
Spiritual
the
experience.
EMF fields were more or fluctuated at like higher levels, like bigger spikes and lows. So they saw that they would go to, well, they didn't really go anywhere. See, that's what I wish they would have done, was go to these places
Well,
and do more
that's
work. But
because what they were looking for was they were talking about spiritual experiences that people were having. Like
yes, and they were using EMF to induce those experiences.
To induce them,
So
basically.
from that point forward, the two kind of got linked up together. I feel like if that's not the case, then he's still Michael Persinger, as far as I know, is still the first one that ever kind of used.
And when was that?
That was in was the late '80s, I think. '80s.
Damn, that early?
Yeah. Now
that recent?
a lot of people. I've read several places where they used EMF detectors back into the '70s, right?
Like, I mean, are you telling me that Ed and Lorraine Warren never worked with anybody that had any kind of meters like that?
Okay, have you ever heard of Ed and Lorraine Warren using EMF detectors? I haven't. I'm not saying they didn't, but I'm just saying.
Well, no, they did. Though
they did mostly recording. There was recordings, pictures,
and Lorraine,
and they would do things like the baby powder.
Yes,
and,
but no, Ed and Lorraine didn't do that. Lorraine was the medium. Ed was the demonologist, and he would do the recording and all that stuff. Their team
would do stuff like that.
Yes,
I'm not talking about
difference.
But
the team.
Who cares about their team? It's Ed and Lorraine Warren, dude. I mean, they're doing it. Right. Okay, that's what I was referring to. The team, though. If you want to get technical, sure. The team.
Well, but what I was saying though is that like I think that they had probably worked with somebody at some point in their long career that pulled out some form of a meter to detect something, right? You would think.
Well, electricity's relatively new to the human. It's relatively new. If you look at the scope of
I
like
mean,
the span of history, and
yes,
how long we've had the
relatively.
wheel, how long we've had like
Yes.
steam power and everything, like then electricity, DC electricity, AC is
Yeah,
very
but it's been at least 125
sure, sure.
years.
But when Ed and Lorraine Warren was doing their thing, it
The
wasn't
50s and
125
the
years.
50s and
It was
60s,
like 50
maybe the
years that
70s.
electricity was even a thing. They didn't even have detectors for electricity, really. 50s and 60s, it was just electricity just came along not even 70 years ago.
What about
Do you see
Geiger
what I'm saying?
counters?
Geiger counters, what are you talking about? I'm talking about when you're in the 1960s, right? Would you have needed a Geiger counter in 1900?
Well, we're not
No.
talking about 1900.
I said if you're talking about the 1960s when they were doing their work, you're only talking about like a 60-year period since electricity was introduced and being used.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So we hadn't had a chance, I don't think.
Also, a 60-year period of cars and vehicles and all kinds of technology that had advanced.
Right, but I'm saying we didn't even get seat belts until several years later. So I'm saying things get used for other things or they get improved later on. But to begin with, like in the 60s, nobody had really thought of EMF being like a side effect of paranormal activity. The EMF detectors were probably very specific because electricians were they weren't like as many electricians as there are nowadays.
Well, didn't they have those things that like they had the like it was
Dowsing rods.
well, it wasn't a dowsing rod. It was like a thing that they had the headphones on and they had the stick that would read
That's just the
the
EMF.
EMF levels.
That's yeah. Well, you could hear that. You could hear spikes and stuff, right? Yeah.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
and the guy would have the headphones on listening for it, right? And you would hear
Like
the clicking in his ears and shit. It's
you're
almost like a
still talking about the 50s and the 60s when
yeah.
they
So
were doing it.
there's EMF detectors of sorts
Sure, I'm not saying they
in
weren't being
the
used. I'm not saying they weren't being used. I'm just saying very few people had them. They
right.
weren't like on the market. It wasn't.
Well, no,
There was
no.
no. You probably couldn't go
Well,
to
there were very
Sears
few
and
people
buy
even
an
doing
EMF
what
detector.
Ed and Lorraine were doing. You know.
Most people did the seance thing. They did
Well, I think
seance
by the 50s
regularly.
and 60s, it would kind of tone down on the spiritualism stuff. Like that was Victorian era.
So
The
what?
spiritualism
Like I
was
do
like the
anything. Like it doesn't
late
change the fact.
1800s.
It doesn't change the fact that late 60s, 70s, EMF detectors were still
Oh, right.
relatively new.
Right.
And I
Yeah, they
don't think
weren't. There
anybody
were
had really.
very few people even doing any
It'd
kind of
probably be like
paranormal
us
research that time,
going
too.
and getting building a particle accelerator and saying, "Oh, this has got to do with paranormal," and it'll just come out, and 100 years from now, they'd be looking at it the same way. But yeah, it's just
Michio Kaku built one in his basement as a teenager, apparently.
so did Bob Lazar. He's got one. He's got a
Mm-hmm.
giant
Bob
one
Lazar, yeah.
on his property.
Well, did he
But,
build a particle accelerator? Or did
no,
he
he
build
built a
something?
particle accelerator.
I thought he built like a rocket engine or some shit.
He's sure he's done that too. He's
Yeah.
done a lot of things. He made his Corvette run on hydrogen. He's got like a
He had
hydrogen
the rocket powered
Corvette.
car and the rocket powered
That's
bike
what he got
too.
famous for. That's when he
Yeah,
first
that's right.
got
Yeah.
in the newspaper.
All
Right.
right. So moving forward with
Right.
EMF.
Yeah.
Okay.
So EMF, I think if you ask me, the first time it's been. Now I'm not saying Ed and Lorraine Warren did.
Right.
I'm saying if they did, they didn't say anything about it, to my knowledge.
All right. No, you're right. I'm sure that there were people that were, but yeah, you're right. I don't know if they would have. We'd have to go through every single one of their cases, every single person I was on site, see every
It would have
device that
come
they
up. I
used.
feel like it would have
I
come
mean,
up by now. If it were okay. So that's not to say that one or two people didn't try it, but if they
right.
did, they didn't
It
say
wasn't
anything about
common
it.
at the
It's
very
not
least. It was rare.
documented.
It was
So
rare. Let's just.
I'm not even going to say it's rare. I'm going to say it was non-existent because I don't have any evidence that it happened.
Right. Well,
And unless
anyway,
it's written
so
down
okay.
somewhere or something, then I say it didn't happen. So Michael Persinger, to my knowledge, was the first one to use EMF detectors in the paranormal, because the work he did would have been considered, is still considered paranormal work. It's just with like consciousness and that side of the paranormal. So like ESP or like seeing, they didn't even really believe in paranormal stuff. They weren't testing for that. They were looking to see if they could trick your brain into thinking you're having a paranormal experience. That was Michael Persinger's angle. Now, when I came out,
Okay.
when I did the ghost helmet angle, I was like, well, what if it's the other way? What if we're looking at what Nikola
I
Tesla?
didn't even fucking think about this guy.
Well, I
And
mean, that's why I
Edison
got him
too.
up there. That's why I got him up there because he was the
Those
first one to
guys,
use the ghost box.
Edison and Tesla were long before
Well,
Persinger.
but Edison, even Tesla, no,
Tesla,
Tesla never used it. No, he never even said he believes in ghosts. What are you
well,
talking
not
about?
ghosts.
He didn't investigate ghosts. He was listening to radio waves. That's the only time he ever mentioned anything paranormal. That's it.
Well, he also regularly talked about the ether. The radio waves. He picked them up on his the crystal quartz germanium diode thing that he had.
No, he had a giant thing. It was better than just that, though. It was way more. It was way bigger than just that. It
Well,
makes it
you
sound
seen the size of diodes back
not
in
the
his
diode.
time.
It's the antenna. The diode can be changed out with
Well,
tungsten.
the
You can use
antenna
a
too.
razor
Yeah.
blade. You can use a razor blade in place of the diode. The diode's not important. You can use
okay.
whatever. That's just a tuning mechanism, right? But you can use a razor blade. Like soldiers used to make a radio called a foxhole radio, and they make it out of a razor blade. They would use that to attune the radio signal. So,
Okay.
but Tesla didn't ghost hunt. He wasn't like using he by happenstance heard voices listening to the radio, the very first radio ever built in the world. He heard voices, but he thought they were aliens. And that I know pretty well because I've researched that part pretty well. He might have been in a ghost or something. Again, not documented. He was a brilliant dude, but EMF, the ether, not really the same thing. I don't think. And he didn't have anything to test for the ether. I'm sure he probably developed the first EMF detector of some sort. I couldn't tell you what it was, but I'm sure he did because he had to somehow tell the levels of shit that he was messing with. So I bet
I imagine anybody that understands the way that physics works, so even going back to Isaac Newton, would understand that it's within the electromagnetic spectrum, which is somehow, some way electromagnetic.
I don't think they were put together. You know what I'm saying? I don't think. Sure, it's easy for us to look back
Like
and say,
detecting ghosts, but I think that Tesla knew that the ether was just this unknown kind of field around us. Well, he actually, it was an unknown field around us that he called the ether. But that doesn't. But he thought that that's where those voices were coming from. I think.
No,
but even Tesla, even Edison was competing with Tesla.
He thought they
back
were
in the day with the spirit phone. Like he was like,
now that was a joke. That was a troll, bro. Edison was trolling Tesla. I don't believe Edison ever made.
He sure spent a lot of time and money on a troll.
Yeah. Because you know how much money was involved in destroying Tesla. Because if Tesla would have passed Edison,
fucking awful, dude.
You're talking about to this day.
People I know it was really
electricity
bad.
as we know it. We wouldn't have. Well, we might have it. Somebody else might have came along and made it later. But Tesla came up with that shit. The AC electricity. He came up with it. And dude, Edison went to lengths, ridiculous lengths, to destroy not only Tesla but also the idea of AC electricity. Like he would put on shows
where they had Topsy.
Yeah, the elephants, and he would electrocute them.
Topsy the elephant. Yeah,
just to prove or to show you that AC electricity would kill you.
Yeah, he murdered Topsy the elephant. A lot of people don't know that.
My DC won't kill you, but AC will kill you. It'll kill you dead. So, but Tesla developed that when he went to work for Edison. Like he hadn't developed that yet till after he went to work for Edison. And so
Right.
that's how Edison kind of got him with one of those, oh, anything you make belongs to me. And
Mhm.
then, but then he didn't even want to use it. He wanted to just
Wow.
own the
All right. The
intellectual right
patents.
to it,
The
so that he
patents.
could. Yeah, patents were fucked back then, dude. Like patents, like, dude,
Well, I'm pretty sure Edison was like,
How did
was it?
Marconi get the patent for the radio when Tesla already had patented it?
It was
You
a
know what I'm
different.
saying?
It was a different design. It was the same thing, just different design.
Same essential idea though. The idea of using a selective diode and a coil, and then listening and transmitting radio waves. That was all the idea of that was Tesla, and it's pretty laid out well. And they straight up just gave it to him. I don't know if he paid somebody to just give it to him anyway, but he's credited with inventing the radio when he didn't. Tesla came up with it first.
Oh, okay.
But anyways, so Tesla would have been dude if Tesla was paranormal, was into the occult, dude. Well, it probably would have destroyed him like it destroyed Aleister Crowley's brain, I think. But anyways,
Hold up.
again, now okay, back to the EMF detector. I think that Michael Persinger is the first one to use it kind of in that space, in that paranormal area, right?
Yeah.
That whole blanket area. And then the first people to use it like publicly for ghost hunting, as far as I know, I could be wrong. Now, there was a show that I watched, but I don't know when the show came out, but it was Haunted History. And it's in 4:3 aspect ratio. If you go back and watch it now,
Mhm.
they're using EMF detectors in that show.
That's the
But
British show, isn't it?
no, I don't think so. No, it's called Haunted History. Sorry, Haunted History.
Okay.
And but outside of that, and like a documentary I've seen, but I can't tell if it was like, I can't remember if it was like, and I can't find it right now, but if it was like 90s or early 2000s, because that's when we were going from 4:3 to 16:9 aspect ratios on TV, right? So all your TV shows back in the day, like 2000, early 2000s, and
Mhm.
9 below would have been 4:3, so that you could watch it on your 4:3 aspect ratio CRT television at home.
Oh,
So when you
okay.
see these old documentaries, you can kind of date them by that, you know. But
Yeah.
Greg Koss says if Tesla ruled instead of Edison, we would be up top of the world. Maybe, maybe. He wasn't exactly right about everything, though. He was wrong about. Well, he wasn't necessarily wrong about it. He was wrong about how it worked as far as like electricity and ground. But that's even still debated this day. See, even something as simple as DC electricity, right,
Mhm.
is not a proven thing. You have the general theory of electricity, and then you DC electricity, and then you have the what's it called? Da, 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 da. There's another theory of electricity. I can't remember what it's called. I can look it up in a minute. But
The
the
theory.
general theory of electricity is it's called the electron theory. I think is the general theory. Anyways, so the one that everybody knows is the way it works is positive flows towards negative. So the positive will flow towards the ground. That's the general theory of electricity.
Yeah, it's just a
But
direction. Yeah.
there's another theory that states that ground actually flows to the positive end, which is weird, but it and I can't tell you all the details because I didn't study up on it and think about this earlier when I was. But
I'm skeptical of that one.
I'm skeptical too. Well, but I just don't
That's
see how it works. But I also
yeah. There's
can't say that it's not real, right?
the burden of proof is on that claim.
Sure. But there's enough points to be made for that argument that
I would like to hear
it has
those.
to be even electron theory is still a theory, dude. That's what I was saying. That's what I was telling you.
Electron theory. What electron theory?
Electron theory is that positive flows towards ground, basically, and moves between electrons. So you trade electrons. Well, electricity trades electrons as it's moving across conductive materials.
Yeah.
And supposedly it's the charge is moving towards ground. But there's a lot of evidence that states that it doesn't go towards ground, that it comes from the ground towards the positive. I'm just saying, I stick with the basic one.
I mean, that's how it works with lightning.
Right. Well, and that's partially where that theory comes from, or why I guess people thought of that. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why exactly. Like when somebody was like, "Oh, well, I think it does this," some contradictory motherfucker out there just said
that.
Disagree with everybody.
Probably same people that think the Earth is flat. You know.
Right. But at least that this
no real basis for their argument, except it's almost as if they just don't want to believe what has been shown to them. Yeah, they refuse to believe the evidence. Then it's not. You're not. I mean, that's not your. You just don't. You're denier. You're a denier at that point.
Yeah, I don't even want to call it a denier. I want to call it just your. Because most people that are flat earthers are religious freaks, right? They really are. A lot of them are, yeah. I think the majority of them are, because most of them you can find some kind of link to them and some kind of weird. I'm a Christian, but there's Christians out there that just refuse to believe reality and anything that differs from their belief system. Has to people of all religions. Got to be the devil. Yeah, I'm talking about to the point where it's like we find freaking dinosaur bones, and you're going to tell me that's not really a dinosaur, that the devil put the bones in the ground to make me think that the world is older than
Orthodox Christianity, basically.
I don't even know if that's Orthodox, bro. That's like that's almost like a cult-like thing, bro. Because
you know what Orthodox is.
Orthodox just means like you're traditional.
It's like bare basic, like
traditional. Like this is the way my granddaddy did it. This is the way my daddy did it. And by God,
thousands of years of tradition.
And I don't care what you say.
Like that's the type of people. Those are Orthodox. Orthodox Christians are the ones that will believe the Bible word for word. Instead of looking at it as
Tim says, lightning, the charge flows from the negatively charged bottom of the cloud to the positively charged ground. Right, and that's why. That's why.
Okay, that makes sense. All right.
Yeah, but it's trading electrons, and that's why I say I think that's
visually it shows as appearing from the ground up. Then, but that's just a visual.
Right, that's
what do they call that? An optical illusion on our side.
Operate at that
right
rate to catch it.
But like when you're driving down the highway, you see wheels spinning backwards, even though you know they're going forwards.
Right. Well, the light is just the after effect of the discharge, right?
Yeah.
So the light and the thunder, all that happens after the actual interaction happens. It might be a split microsecond, but it's definitely after the fact.
Yeah.
But
it's from the heat created.
Yeah, plasma. So that being said, EMF detectors. Going back to that, I think the first time we ever saw it publicly, besides a couple of documentaries and a few TV shows here and there, first time the public really got turned on to it was Ghost Hunters. Jay Hawes, is that his name?
Jason Hawes.
Jason Hawes and Grant
Wilson.
So Linda Judd says, was Tesla ever known to do readings for private sessions? What?
Well, Tesla wasn't like a medium or anything.
Tesla did not believe that he was communicating with ghosts. He never said he talked to ghosts. He never said he used the spirit phone. He simply said in an interview.
I thought he said it was interdimensional.
No, he said that he believed that they were aliens, pretty much.
I thought Frank Sumption thought it was aliens, and Tesla thought it was interdimensional.
No, Tesla thought he heard aliens. He couldn't make out the dialect. He couldn't make out the language.
I've
He
heard the
said
audio. Have you heard? Have
there's
you
no
heard the
audio.
audio?
There's no
Oh,
audio
there's
for that.
definitely audio.
I haven't heard the audio. I read the interview.
You
I
should.
read the interview where he talked about it.
You should listen to the audio that he heard.
I don't see how we know what audio he heard. Again, did he
He
record it?
recorded it. Yeah.
I've never heard that audio from that first.
You
But
see?
I'm not talking about the audio from his sessions. I'm talking about like, well, send me a link. I'll bring it up. I've never heard audio from it. I have.
It's pretty crazy.
I know
You
he
can't
did
really
it.
make any words out. It does just sound like a bunch of random
Right, but
vocal tones in the
that's neither
background.
here nor there. What he said he believed it was aliens. Now it doesn't matter what it was; it just matters what he saw it as. Right? He
Right.
didn't. I don't remember him saying that he thought it was ghosts or that he even believed in anything like
No,
that.
definitely not. He never. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. He never said anything of the sort.
Yeah. Now there may be a recording of similar audio, but the first time he turned that radio on, and that's when he said he heard it. I'm pretty sure there was no recording devices there. It
Not
wasn't
the first
that easy.
time. Maybe not the first time he heard it, but he definitely recorded the audio.
And I'm sure he did because that would have been the smart thing to do. Like, look at what I did. This is what you can hear. But the first time, what the time he was referencing, like when he did an interview, which is the only time I know that he talked about it. I think it was in a news or no, it was a magazine. I can't remember what magazine. Anyways, but yeah, he thought it was aliens. He said that it sounded like an alien language. It sounded human, but yeah, he couldn't make out the dialect. And I think he spoke 8 languages. And if you speak 8 languages, then you are going to be able to kind of pick out most of the major languages in the world. Like you're going to be able to say, it sounded kind of whatever region. I don't know. I'm not very good with even speaking English. So fans of your, what's up? So yeah, that being said, Jason Hawes and Grant Wilson, is that right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So they would be the first ones I would think of when I, think back who's the first person I saw using EMF detectors.
Yeah.
Now, EMF detectors, the good ones, aren't made to look for ghosts. They're made to look for EMF.
Right.
And, so I do with that what you will, but it is what it is. But so that's just one type of equipment, one piece of equipment. We've spent nearly 48 minutes. Some of that was talking about other topics that we kind of trailed off to, but we spent a good 30, 40 minutes talking about EMF detectors and where we think they come from. So, and how they got used.
Somehow a conclusion of some sort, right?
So we come to the conclusion that we kind of sort of might know who used it in that way first. I don't know, but is he? Because like I said, if it's not documented, it didn't happen in my book. Like, I don't care if your dad's uncle's brother was using EMF detectors in 1962, and he told you all about it.
I seen it.
He didn't write that shit down. He didn't take no pictures. And
I swear on my mama's grave.
You can swear on that grave all you want, but till you show me some receipts,
it didn't happen.
What's up, Becky? So yeah, if ain't no picture, ain't no evidence, it didn't happen. But
picture didn't happen. That's how it goes.
So the conclusion, I guess, we'll say. So I'm gonna ask you. What do you think you're detecting when you use an EMF detector during a paranormal investigation? What do you think that ghosts are using it like a yes, no? Like, do you think they have that ability? Do you think they can like willingly like charge or discharge a thing? You know what I'm saying? Like, how does that work in your head?
I think they have the ability to. I mean, I can't discount
it willingly, like on purpose. That's because people will use things like K2s. They'll be like, oh, light it up to the yellow light. That's some precision ass, like charging if you're a ghost or whatever you want to call it. Like it just, I don't know. How do you envision like a ghost using it? Are they just thinking about it happening and they bump it up, or are they like, they have a wand? Expelliarmus. I don't know. I don't know
I
how.
imagine, and actually, Mike kind of gave me this idea, and I honestly, it kind of makes sense. Like, I imagine it like the movie Ghost, like how when they're in the subway trying to figure out how to kick the can. Like, it's a matter of like being able to control the ability to do it and figuring it out, and like so. I think that it's a matter of figuring it out.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't, but the thing is like we don't know how time works over on that side. So like how long it takes them, you know what I mean?
Like
We
where
don't,
that side is.
right. Exactly. So like,
where is that side? Is that
if
side
they
like,
are able to, I mean, I still believe it's within dark matter. Like I think the dark matter will tell us a lot more answers.
sure that might be. But
Well,
if
it's like
if you
all
plan on
around
getting
us.
those answers, you better become a quantum physicist and go do it yourself, because ain't none of them
Hey,
motherfuckers
they
gonna.
are already
They're not
finding.
gonna. Yeah, they're finding weird shit, but they're never gonna say, "Oh, well, this explains." They might say this
No,
explains
not in
the
our
paranormal. They
lifetime.
will
No.
try to use it to explain away the paranormal. Here's what I'm gonna go with right now. I'm gonna say this right now. We call things the supernatural for a reason, because they exist outside of the natural world. And I don't think there's a limit to that, and that we're going to get to a point one day where
Outside of the electromagnetic spectrum,
yeah, I do.
like
I believe it exists.
dark,
That's
like
what
dark matter and
supernatural
dark
means.
energy.
Supernatural means outside of the natural world. What is science? Science looks at the natural world. It is an observation of the natural world, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I don't like, even if it's got something to do with dark energy. I think there's a barrier there. I do believe in intelligent creation, and I think we are meant to not be able to figure it out because it wouldn't end well. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Because what happens if we could just cross over into the spirit world willingly, just anytime we want to, with a I don't know, a portal or some shit?
Yeah,
We had the eye portal 20 Samsung Galaxy eye portal. I don't know. It's
well,
just,
that's part of like the simulation theory. The part of like simulation theory is that like it's always it's a self-correcting code. So like we're never going to be able to find the answers because every time we get close, it's going to change something so that we aren't going to be able to find the answer. Like, well, it's always like how
out of your reach.
chasing the purple dragon.
Just out of your reach.
Chasing the purple dragon.
Well, it is a drug. It's an obsession, which I guess is kind of the same thing, right? It's like
it increases your dopamine levels drastically when you get the adrenaline rush. And
Wade Kirby says, depending on the spirit, they will absolutely use a communication device. I mean, I agree. I think they do. I just don't know how it works. That's what I'm saying. I don't know how that, the mechanics of that. And also what I'm saying is I don't think we're going to know if it, I don't think finding out what dark energy or any of this stuff is, I don't think that's going to correlate to, oh, well, this is what the paranormal is. If anything, it'll be used the same way science has always been used, and that's to discredit supernatural or preternatural, the existence of those things.
I feel like it would only help it.
How? What is science done to help? Like, what is the scientific community, not science, not technology? What is the scientific, whenever have they helped along and tried to actually help the paranormal community or people who believe in spiritualism get to a point where they understand why they believe that? Or, you know what I'm saying? When have they ever, like,
well, they're not very supportive of the research.
They're not. And I don't see it ever changing. I don't see them ever, because it's not only a matter of
no, it would take
stupid.
It would take a discovery on the scale of Göbekli Tepe in order to change the perspective. And when I
even
say that,
yeah, I
I'm
know
saying that the Gobekli Tepe rewrites the history books of our human civilization, of
and
our
they still
understanding.
don't want to, and they still
And they
don't want
don't want to admit it, but
to.
they
I know,
have
I
to.
know,
That's
I
the
know.
problem, is that they have
They
no
have so
choice at
many.
this point.
But what about,
Oh, they're
they have
always gonna
so
find.
many
There's
of
always
those.
gonna be
They
those
will call
people.
Göbekli Tepe.
Yeah,
There's a lot
they
of people
will
who call it
always.
a
Yeah, yes.
anecdotal
Yeah, they
piece
will
of
always
evidence.
say that shit. But
Yeah,
the thing is that they cannot, like, the data. They cannot ignore the data, and they can sit there and deny it, but they can't sit. They cannot actively ignore it. And so there has to be something at like
right.
a level of that kind of magnitude, I guess, that would even put it into the conversation
But like
of.
what? Because if you were to frame anything, like it would literally take God coming down, like descending in a freaking cloud with a lightning bolt in his hand, glowing eye, and even then they would say, "Oh, there's a reasonable explanation for this."
Well, that's where I think that quantum mechanics and quantum physics is really going to answer a lot of questions.
I don't think it's going to. If
It's not
it
going to answer all of the questions, but what I will do is it may open up doorways of research, and it may open up more of the possible theories that, like,
sure,
it may open up more consideration, at least
right.
within the paranormal community, because of the fact that once we recognize,
Has
like,
nuclear physics done anything for, like, I don't see how another technological advance is going to help when no technological advance has helped historically ever.
well, it's
There's
not
never
about.
been a point where science was like, okay, we got this new technology, we're gonna figure this thing out. I'm just saying. I like your optimism, but I don't think science is ever at any point ever going to use are going to be like, oh, well, you guys were right. There was something going on all along. We just didn't know what it was. But not, they would only use it
Okay.
to kick any kind of belief you have in spirits. Just the same way they've always used technology or science to explain away paranormal. They say the science age is they're trying to kill God basically. That's what it is. They want to kill God, and that's just a metaphor for ending any kind of beliefs in things that can't be proven by science. I'm
Okay.
just saying. I know you have a big, like, I think dark energy, and it might, but it's going to take somebody who believes in dark energy enough to do all that work and become like a physicist where you're on that same level where I'm telling you, bro, because top quantum physicists are not going to be like, oh yeah, let me help you find ghosts, and I'm not going to be able to understand what they're even saying to me if they're trying to explain quantum physics to me. Because first of all, it's going to start with a giant chalkboard full of equations and shit, and I can't even do calculus. So there you go. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. Like I think you're right. That technology could help us along a little bit, but it's not like building an EMF detector. It's not like building a ghost box. It ain't like building SLS putting an SLS camera together. It's not like building some kind of device to check for, see if there's light or not, or if there's motion. It's not like that. We're talking about quantum physics, and not just theoretical quantum physics, practical physics. So you're actually able to build things that interact with that techno or that science, right? Just saying. Go ahead.
Uh, no, I'm not even going to try because
There's,
you're
I, I,
very cynical about it. So I'm just like,
I'm I'm
I'll
not
just leave
I'm
it at that.
cynical. I'm cynical in the same way that scientists would be cynical towards uh, paranormal research. I'm
Okay.
cynical because of the history. Like, there's never been a point where science has just been like, oh, okay, there might be something to this paranormal. Let's use our latest technology, our greatest minds to figure that out for you.
Because you're thinking of a sense of like what we're going to find, what kind of detector is going to tell us that it's a ghost or something
Because
like that.
because
Yeah,
that's
you're right.
all
That's
we
not going
know
to
how
happen.
to do.
But you're
That's
like,
what I'm saying. Now,
I think you're like discounting like what with regards to like what the research could tell us.
what has it told us so far? As long as they've been working on quantum physics, like what breakthrough is it going to take? How much how much are we going to have to know about dark energy before it even matters? You know what I'm saying? Like it's not something that's going to be super easy to even observe.
Oh
Like
well,
there,
we observed it, so
yeah,
um,
I didn't say we couldn't observe it. You can
okay.
observe it
Here, let me throw
in a
this out there.
particle physics in a particle accelerator. It's CERN. You know, I ain't got no particle accelerator. Throw it out there. What you got?
So what happens if we discover the antiphoton?
You ain't gonna discover the antiphoton.
Well, no shit, I'm not going to. But
I'm not gonna discover it. Who's
what
gonna?
if somebody does?
Okay, what if they do? What does that mean?
That means that there is a whole world of particles out there, a
Sure.
whole existence
Okay.
around us, 100%
Yep.
around us that we cannot physically see. It is the opposite of a light particle.
Sure.
So what kind of doorways does that open up? The fact now we know where to look is a first direction. Like
Right.
that is a big step, and because right
I
now we're
don't.
talking, like
I
I
don't agree.
believe it's outside of the electromagnetic spectrum. We're not
That's
going to
what,
be able to detect it within that. So
that's
like
what I
that's
think.
why the dark matter and dark energy. I know that I don't know if you really like know about like with the extent of what dark matter and dark energy are,
Sure, but
but
tell
like
me. I know the extent, but you can you and you can tell me all the stuff that you can watch in documentaries, you can read in books, but can you tell me how that's going to help us figure out what the paranormal is? I'm talking about ghosts. I'm talking about not anything paranormal. Obviously, aliens, we communication and stuff could get better. We could find alien right now. Aliens are considered paranormal, but at some point they're definitely not paranormal, right? They're just paranormal right now because it's kind of considered pseudoscience by probably big science. They believe in aliens, but us communicating with them, they think it's not going to happen. So, uh, tell me how it's going to affect. You can sit there and tell me, oh, well, quantum physics is going to open doorways all you want, but until you tell me what kind of doorway or what makes you, just because is it like a magic that you don't understand yet, and when you do, oh, well, everything will make sense, or we'll know so much more. But I don't know that, because even when they figure out what dark matter is or dark energy is, that don't mean I'm going to be able to understand what it is, and that doesn't
true.
mean that I will ever have any kind of, probably
You're
any
right.
equipment that you could even,
You are absolutely right.
right, and that any equipment that you could get to even observe these things is going to be astronomically friggin' expensive. And you could build a particle, sure, you could build a particle accelerator in your garage, but you're limited to a garage particle accelerator and the equipment you have to observe those particles and what happens when you do.
Oh
So,
yeah, obviously I'm not talking about right now or in the near future. I clearly I said not in our lifetimes.
we won't ever
No,
experience.
you and I will never do
Right.
it.
And
No.
I don't, I think personally, I don't think that the human race will ever like truly understand the link between, what we call the living world and some other dimension, right? Wherever ghosts come from.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't think we will ever truly understand it, because I don't think we were truly meant to. I think it's meant to be a, uh, out of our reach, because look at what happens. I believe, like I said, I believe in intelligent creation, right? So
Mhm.
that means I believe that God, whatever you want to think God is, knew what humans were capable of, and like, maybe not even that. It may just be that the nature of our physical existence does not allow for us to interact with, or to understand. Maybe our brains can't even comprehend it. I'm pretty sure it's somewhere along that lines. But there's never going to be an actual, oh, well, the spirits you were talking to was just this all along, or this is how, like, well,
Well,
we figured
no.
out, this science, this, like, some scientist comes along and invents or figures out you can split an atom. Okay. Before that, they probably had so many, like, oh man, if we could learn how to do this, just think of all the possibilities. But in reality, what happened? It turned into like a way to scare people from using nuclear energy. Yeah, it's like we can't even use atomic power like we want to because of the public discourse, right? Because people are associated with atomic bombs and nuclear bombs, right? So we can't even have nuclear power plants. Can't advance the technology because people are so freaking scared of it. So if you don't use something and do it a lot, you don't get good at it. And that's just kind of the nature of technology and doing anything. Like, you have to do it, you have to build it, you have to improve on it, or it's going to be stagnated. And that's kind of where we sit. Even with, like, look at the splitting the atom was a huge deal, dude. And we're just like, no, we don't like it because it can be used for evil. Just think of what's going to happen when they do discover what the true nature of, like, dark energy, right? It's going to be used for a freaking weapon. And then you have that face. Every technology is used for a weapon first, and that's nearly true in all situations. Like, yeah.
I make that face because I don't know how you would be able to
Weaponize dark energy.
Weaponize. There would be no possible, like, because dark energy is only, like, it's what's holding the universe together.
You don't know what dark energy is, or is capable of, or what understanding that. You laugh, but you don't.
That's
You
fair.
don't know what you don't know.
I that is fair. I guess that's
don't
fair.
know what you don't know. So if you don't know that you don't know,
there could be dark energy particles. There could be dark energy waves. That is
how can
true.
you, if you can't even say how it's gonna, like, specifically how it's gonna help
I would
us?
love to try to, but you keep, like, cutting in and
Tell me
talking about something else.
Give
Like,
me a
you're like,
specific way. Like, specifically, give me a specific way that we could use.
it's understanding the fundamental nature of our universe. And so if we understand, we currently understand the current, like, the physical quantum world, the world that we can see with the electromagnetic spectrum. But mathematically, there is evidence and proof on paper, mathematically. And this is the same thing with everything, really.
Yeah.
That there's antiphotons, that there's antimatter particles. Like, we've discovered antimatter particles, but antiphotons are a whole different ballgame. Now, once we discover antiphotons, like, that's basically where we're going to be able to detect anything. Like, that's the first step in being able to observe something outside of the electromagnetic spectrum. And when we do that,
you think that's the first step. I mean, but we really don't know. We don't know because we ain't got there yet. We haven't got there.
Well, that's true. But I mean, in order to even get there, we have to be able to detect anything outside of the electromagnetic spectrum. Like, that is, like, until we can do that, we can't do anything.
But here's
with
what I'm saying.
To going out, like, with dark matter and dark energy, like, we have no idea.
You assume that the paranormal, I'm just going to say the paranormal. I don't mean it like the paranormal, because I think the paranormal is a blanket term again for anything that exists outside of our
entities, type of thing.
That's kind of how I look at it, right? So I until you, like, if you don't even know you know what the implications might be of discovering some new technology or a way to observe some new energy.
Oh, I'm not even worried about the technology. It's just like,
what you have to be worried about the technology. How can you not be worried about the technology? The technology, you can't do it without the technology.
Well, I mean, duh, but, like, it's not.
I mean, I don't even know how. I understand that those things might help us understand aspects of the paranormal better, but it might not. I'm telling you,
Very true.
probably going to be used
May
to
not, but what we're going
explain
hasn't shown us
away.
anything yet.
They're
So
going to say
I think it's the
things like,
first, most logical place to look is where we can't look, where we haven't been able to see, where we haven't been able to
obviously, but
observe. Like that's the first
that has
place.
to be attainable. Like this is
Yeah,
we're not even talking
that's
about
why.
something
So how
attainable
do
right
we?
now.
Okay, you're right. You're right. You're right. So my question is: every time a new technology or any kind of scientific discovery is made, there's always a baby step. It's almost like the
Oh,
first
amazing.
combustion engine has gradually, like it started as this, and it gradually
And it's
transformed into
still a
what it is
combustion
now.
engine. It's still just an engine.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
but you get my point.
No, I get your point. The technology grows as time goes, but it
And
also
once
it's not
that
just time.
first step is made, especially now looking at the level of our understanding of quantum physics in general, like we weren't able to see the first atom in
But it,
general until like the 50s and 60s, or maybe a little before that.
right,
But the point
right.
is
That's
that
kind
our
of what I'm saying.
understanding of it right now, because of technology, has greatly improved. But the fact is, like, we understand our universe on a quantum level, on a particle level, and so if we can, but we don't understand it fully. We only understand what
We
we can
understand it on a
physically
quantum
see.
level, and we still don't know what a ghost is.
Only what
Still
we
don't
can
know.
see within the electromagnetic spectrum. And see, I am convinced that it can be quantified. Like I'm convinced that we can put a scientific explanation. I'm
I think
convinced
you
that
can
it can
explain
happen. I don't think that
some
we
stuff.
can.
ESP, sure, you can probably explain ESP.
But I
There's
think everything's connected, man.
I think everything's connected, but until you
Universal
reach a certain
consciousness, brother.
point, things become disconnected. Now we assume that the quantum level is going to be the be all end all. We're going to know everything once we figure that out.
I never
There's
said
always
that.
going to no, but that's kind of like
Oh, not even insinuating.
figuring out
No.
what the paranormal is kind of like the pipe dream of yeah. So like to say that that's going to help us figure out it's going to open so many doors. I don't know that it will. Because it might just be used as a weapon. It might just be used. It's going to be like
Yeah.
corporatized. It's going to be. I'm looking at the reality. I'm trying to be pragmatic
No,
about.
you're
And
absolutely right, and so
I
there's no
know
point
what
in
you're
having the
saying.
discussion anymore because,
I
like,
know what you're saying, though. I agree.
I understand what you're saying, and I
Yeah.
100% am on your side because I agree that that's how the scientific community will treat it,
Yes.
and so
That's
why
how I
even
feel.
try, right?
Yeah, they're gonna make a bomb out of it, dude.
I
That's what
know
they're
why
gonna do.
even then why even attempt it, right? It's like
I
pointless.
know it. No, it's not why even
No, it's
attempt it.
pointless. Don't
We're
listen to it.
as humans, we're gonna be the instrument of our own destruction, regardless. So
I know we got
I
to make
say,
it good.
bring it on. I say,
I
do it,
know.
and
Don't want
but don't
don't
do it
want scientific nerd persecution.
scientific nerd persecution. What
I
anybody who
don't want
believes.
these guys in the glasses and the white coats to tell us how stupid we are.
Well, that's what it is, right? And it's hard for people who believe in the paranormal to attain a level of a scientific merit that because
I know a
here's
couple
one
already.
starting out with a strike. Yeah, but their degree that they believe in science or in the paranormal is usually we believe like like look at all the studies that are done in all the any university, right? How many paranormal studies are done? There's a lot, but they're all
There's very few university funded.
I think
Yeah,
there's two.
that
I think
doesn't
there's two.
exist. There's very
But
few. Yeah.
they don't call it paranormal. They call it
No, parapsychology
they don't
or
even call it parapsychology. They call it conscious studies of consciousness and stuff like that. They don't call it like para anything. There's parapsychology classes, but it's more if you look at those classes, it's more the history of parapsychology. And it's how the people this how like humans believe in the paranormal. It's more that relationship between, how we believe in the paranormal than it is the actual paranormal. Uh, anyway, all this is kind of iffy because it's the paranormal and there's no. That's what I'm saying. We've got this far with technology, right? We have a lot of technology. I'm not going to say we're the smartest things in the universe, but we're the smartest things in a long damn ways. And
That we know of.
Have you travel out through space, you're gonna have to go for a while before you find somebody that's intelligent, another species that's as intelligent as we are on Earth. So, that being said, like, what have we done to help understand spirituality and stuff, like this spirit side of the world, the paranormal? It's all bait, like pieces, right? Like,
Hmm?
I say that science ain't
It's
gonna
a
help
direction
paranormal.
we haven't
Science
gone
does
yet, and
help
so all we're doing is
aspects in the
just
paranormal, like
yeah,
studies in
it's pieces.
ESP. Yeah, it's pieces of the paranormal. It's the pieces that they can be like, well, there's some kind of quantifiable data we can look at and say that there might be something that needs to be looked at here. And these are your most sincere, like, and I'm not talking about somebody who just has a degree in physics or something, right? Because I've talked to a lot of people who have
Pipe
degrees in
dream.
physics, and they're not all geniuses. I
Mm,
mean, they just have the ability to like do math. It's math. Like physics is freaking math. That's what it is.
you're right.
That's all
It's
it is math. Yeah,
silly of me.
yeah. But like practical physicists actually build like like particle colliders, and they apply you have
Yeah.
applied physics and then you have theoretical physics, but the majority of it's theoretical. um but anyways, nobody's like chomping at the bit to explain how EMF detectors work, or I've seen a lot of evidence that says that there is EMF fluctuations when paranormal activity occurs. I'm not saying you can use a K2 meter like a Ouija board. You might be able to, but I haven't seen it work like to the degree where I believe that that's what's going on. I believe that sometimes it's those fluctuations are caused by EMF, or I mean by ghosts. What I say is ghosts is just things that I can't see and don't understand. But I don't think that it's a like a my personal belief is it's not a communication method. Now there may, but then again, are we talking about spirit? Because I think there's a different mechanics for all paranormal entities, right? Like I believe there's probably spirits of people who have passed away. Uh, some other in some other existence, be that frequency related, like it just they might exist in the same space. Even when you start thinking about that, that starts breaking my brain, right? Like how would that work? There's a lot of questions even there. Like I don't even know if a ghost is like standing in the same room as me. Are they in a completely different place? I don't know. And anybody who tells me, "Oh, this is how it works," I don't believe you because you don't know. How did you come to that information? Where did you get that information from? How did you get information that none of the rest of us have, and are able to stand on it, right? 10 toes down. Yeah, no, this is how it works. I'm not doing that because though I believe in the existence of paranormal stuff, I don't believe that it's meant
Hold
to
on.
be completely understood.
Hold on. I'll be right back.
Okay. Linda Judd says heaven is a dimension with only positive energy, but I don't know if using the word dimension in this statement is useful. And that's kind of what I'm saying is like if we're talking about dimensions, I say dimensions too a lot, but when I say a different dimension, I'm talking more about like a different plane of existence, not necessarily because when you see, here comes science. A different dimension is like is a different way to perceive things. It's a different what's the word I'm looking for, Austin? It's a different angle that you can
Plane
see.
of existence,
It's not necessarily it's sort of a plane of
perception,
it's a different angle of view
perception,
because our three dimensions is based on how we can perceive the world around us.
perception.
So right, perception. So like the fourth dimension, tesseract, and all that crap, right? Like that's just we can't see that all those at the same time, right? So that's kind of you can see a tesseract. You can draw a tesseract.
We see a 3D version of a Tesseract.
Usually, you can only see a 3D version of it. You can't see the whole picture, right?
We
Because we
can't
have the
perceive the fourth
stereoscopic
dimension.
vision, and that's all we have is like the stereoscopic vision and hearing. Some people have sixth sense, uh, and but that's not really a perception, a sense of perception. It's more of like a
Extra sensibility.
yeah, it's an extra sense, but it's not like another degree of perception. I don't think that might be some.
I almost feel like it's
I don't believe
expanded.
that exists actually. So I'm not. I'm gonna say that I don't believe. But see, because mediums, right? Oh, not this. I guess what's the type of medium that they can see spirits? What would they call that?
I mean, like
Like
yeah,
clairvoyant. That's not clairvoyant though, is it?
clairsentient.
Is it clairs? I don't know what. I don't know what. Because I know like a psychic medium, right? Like they
I know there's a million different
communicate.
classifications.
Right. It's so it gets crazy because none of it's set in stone, bro. Like
I don't know what any of it means.
I mean,
I know psychic and empath.
Clair audio means you can hear spirits, right?
Clair visual.
Clara video. I don't know.
They're machines now.
Yeah. So I like that response though, Linda, about the dimension thing, because I don't even know, like, dimension's not a good word to describe it. Anyway, so there we are. We talked about paranormal equipment. We mainly talked about EMF detectors, and where do we end up, Austin?
I don't fucking know.
No, I don't either. Nowhere closer to understanding it. I know that.
We have all what's that phrase at the end of Billy Madison, or not at the end, but like at the end of that the quiz show.
We are all dumber for having heard you say that. Yeah, it's like anytime I try to explain this stuff to myself, I get like it breaks my brain. I have more questions. You know what I'm saying? Like
the mind of a rabbit hole theorist.
It is a endless rabbit hole. Like most rabbit holes have a bottom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, this one.
But this one just goes around in a loop.
It's like Mel's hole.
It's Mel. See, that's another one. Mel's hole. How can you say anything is real with the government around, dude? Like the government. If you got some cool shit, guess what? Government's gonna take that shit, and they're gonna say it's ours.
There was a team recently that just came out with an engine or something. I think it was
the plasma engine.
Is it the plasma? Yeah, the one that they kept. Yeah, the one that they kept hidden from everybody. They didn't publish anything until they had the work completed. Yeah. And then they released everything because they specifically stated we knew that if we released the details early, we would have people would. Yeah, exactly. The government would come in and take our work.
The U.S. government is allowed by current law, and has been this way for a very long time, to if you apply for a patent for a technology that could be viewed as dangerous or possibly dangerous or represent a danger to the United States, they can take your patent away from you. Yes, honey.
I'm gonna quote this famous quote these famous words by Ronald Reagan a number of years ago.
I see you call me. I'm gonna call him as soon as I get off here.
And I'm gonna say the 9 most terrifying words you ever want to hear.
We're the government, and
I'm from the government, and I'm here to help.
Yeah, that's Reagan.
That is Reagan, and it is the most real, truthful quote you will ever hear.
Yeah, and you know what? That sounds a lot like another president I know. Something he would say. He'd probably say something very similar along those lines. I'm just saying. I'm with anybody who don't trust
anybody in the government. The government, nobody.
So if you find out if you develop a new device or a new technology that detects some paranormal energy and you say shit about it, guess what? It ain't gonna be yours no more, and you probably gonna end up dead soon. Because
Well,
that's
don't
just
file the patent. Well, a lot of people have just been releasing it as open source, like, or just been like releasing it publicly and not filing a patent.
Yeah, if I ever develop a surefire way to detect ghosts, I'm putting that shit on GitHub, bro.
Mm-hmm. No patent, because if you file the patent, they're taking it.
Yeah,
you
and plus, like,
that's it. Move on.
That's also the thing with like paranormal people who make paranormal stuff, right? Like if you're trying to like hide what you made and how you made it from me, yeah, I know. I'm skeptical of it. You know what I'm saying? You can't tell me I got this magic box that talks and it's ghosts. But I'm not telling you what's in this box. But
any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic.
Magic, yes.
Yep.
All right, and with that quote, we're gonna end this.
That's right.
Yeah. So everybody out there, I hope you enjoyed the show. Everybody that watched, and thank you for watching. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. We appreciate it. We need more viewers. Tell all your friends. Tell your family. Hide your wives. Hide your kids. All right, we're out of here.
Hide your husband. Stay generic.
Stay generically paranormal.